agent of the trio's financial backer, Judge Gaspar de Espinosa. Pizarro sailed in November 1524 with 80 men and 4 horses. This first expedition was not a success. It reached a place that the Spaniards called, for obvious reasons, Port of Hunger, and Almagro lost an eye in a skirmish with primitive natives at Burned Village. No riches were found along the coast, and the adventurers had difficulty persuading Espinosa to finance a further attempt. The 3 partners entered into a formal contract on 10 March 1526, and Pizarro sailed 8 months later. He took some 160 men and a few horses in 2 small ships commanded by the able pilot Bartolomé Ruiz. The expedition divided. Pizarro camped at the river San Juan, Almagro returned for reinforcements, and Ruiz sailed on southwards. Ruiz's ships crossed the equator for the first time in the Pacific, and then, suddenly, came the first contact with the Inca civilization. The Spanish ships encountered and captured an ocean-going balsa raft fitted with fine cotton sails. No one who saw that raft was in any doubt that it was the product of an advanced civilization. The vessel was on a trading mission to barter Inca artifacts for crimson spondylus shells. A breathless report of the raft was sent back to King Charles I, who was also Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. They were carrying many pieces of silver and gold as personal ornaments, including crowns and diadems, belts and bracelets, armor for the legs and breastplates, tweezers and rattles and strings, and clusters of beads and rubies, mirrors decorated with silver, and cups and other drinking vessels. They were carrying many wool and cotton mantles and Moorish tunics, and other pieces of clothing colored with cochineal, crimson, blue, yellow, and all other colors, and worked with different types of ornate embroidery, in figures of birds, animals, fish, and trees. They had some tiny scales to weigh gold. There were small stones in bead bags, emeralds and chalcedonies, and other jewels and pieces of crystal and resin. They were taking all this to trade for fish shells, from which they make counters, coral colored scarlet and white. 11 of the 20 men on the raft leaped into the sea at the moment of capture, and the pilot Ruiz set 6 others free on shore. But he shrewdly kept 3 men to be taught Spanish and trained as interpreters for a conquest of this mysterious empire. Ruiz rejoined Pizarro and ferried the expedition south to explore the coast of Ecuador. They returned to the uninhabited Isla del Gallo, Island of the Cock, in the Tumaco estuary. These coasts are humid, barren of food, and often infested with noxious mangrove swamps. The Spaniards suffered terribly. 3 or 4 a week were dying of hunger and disease. When the expedition had lost a large part of its men, a desperate appeal from the survivors reached the governor of Panama. The men smuggled a message hidden in a bale of wool for the governor's wife. They appealed for deliverance from their ruthless leader, Pizarro. "Mr. Governor, you should understand fully that the one going there, Almagro, is the rounder-up, and the one staying here, Pizarro, is the slaughterer." The governor opened a full-scale inquiry on 29 August 1527, and ordered that any men who wished to return should be evacuated. The expedition had been maintained largely by the fanatical determination of Francisco Pizarro. Pizarro was a tall, well-built, and quite handsome man, but he must now have been gaunt, weather-beaten, gray-bearded, and raggedly dressed. Normally taciturn, Pizarro became eloquent. He was convinced that a rich empire lay to the south. He therefore used his sword to draw a line in the pebbly sand of Gallo Island and challenged his men to cross it and stay with him. "Comrades and friends, there lies the part that represents death, hardship, hunger, nakedness, rains, and abandonment. This side represents comfort. Here you return to..."